We celebrated Eid on Sunday. Beautiful, beautiful day, mashallah. And I really have to thank everyone that all the brothers and the wives and the kids. It was just a beautiful day for Sunday. I couldn't have been more blessed. And of course, I spent it with some of the people I'm closest to down here and my children. It was just a beautiful weekend. Alhamdulillah. But about the sister's question, there's a real safe plant called wormwood, WORMWOOD. I would recommend talking to your physician because I am not your doctor. So there's any advice I give you is prefaced with the idea that there's a whole bunch of things that could be going on, and I would prefer anything I say to you be taken to your physicians, the people that you are most familiar with. You've got your physicians, the nurse practitioners, whatever the case. See the people, ask the people about my recommendations before you implement them. And wormwood is a real good herb. I use a company called StandardProcess.com. I have no affiliation other than I love their products. And they rep a company out of Australia. Their founder started a program also. The company is called MediHerb. And that is where I received my herbal prescriptionist certification. It's not an herbal educational American or university degree. It did improve my knowledge. And their company, MediHerb, is super, super honorable. Standard Process the same way. Even if you find it somewhere else, I would always recommend going to standardprocess.com and comparing your product to theirs in terms of grams or milligrams, recommended usages, contraindications. They have a very complete website. And that's what I base everything I do on, is standardprocess.com and MediHerb. They are two phenomenal companies, and they cold process all of their products so that they don't heat and kill the active ingredients, which is hugely important. Okay, so cold processing, really, 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 really important. I think I've mentioned it before, how they dehydrate plants and they never heat them up over 72 degrees. So wormwood is a really, really great product, great herb. I would recommend, again, taking that idea to someone who's more familiar with you and ask them what they think. Now, with that in mind, let's move on to the hearing portion and the touch portion. If we can, I'd like to move into taste and proprioception also. If we don't have time, because I really want to address questions, then we will cover those on the next visit, the next class. So first ones we went over, we reviewed the mini mental exams that we talked about when Sister Layla gave us an example of what they did with hers on her home health visit, or the beginning of the year healthcare. We went over smell, how it's addressed by the right brain, how it's addressed by the left brain. Smell stays ipsilateral. So if you're trying to stimulate right brain, you stim from the right side. If you're trying to stimulate left brain, you stimulate from the left side. Guys, you can put it at any sense on your mustache or beard. Sisters, put it on your hijab. I always recommend make sure your skin isn't irritated by the oils and it doesn't stain, because some oils are strong enough, they'll stain. We then talked about vision. And again, I mentioned a big thing for me are red, yellow, and orange for the left brain stimulation, and blue, green, and indigo for the right stimulation. I'm a big fan of reading everything out loud for stimulating the brain, in particular, the verbal centers on the left. I love reading out loud. I love reading by itself. Remember when we talked about the frontal eye field, focused attention, that'll stimulate both sides, both lobes, right? And the frontal eye field, the fact that you've got eye movement, believe it or not, that is a motor center stimulation. And then by reading, it's focused attention, again, the frontal eye field and your motor centers along with your verbal centers on the left. And then, of course, the right side has verbal big time comprehension, the why the author wrote it, the what else? Figure out the whys, if I can say it this way. The left is the what was said, what was done, details, that kind of thing. The right is the why, the big comprehension, the overall picture. People like jigsaw puzzles. Really cool that it actually works both sides of the brain if done, depending on how you want to do it. When I talk about brain stimulation, some people like to do shapes of pieces and trying to fit it in. Other people like to do colors. Some people follow a pattern from outside in. Some people go inside out. Autistic kids, really cool. Pattern seeking, you should see some real strong autistic kids that can actually flip the puzzle pieces upside down and put it together, not even color schemed, but based on the pieces fitting together. If that's not pattern recognition and a superpower, I don't know what is. A lot of this brain imbalance, whatever side is the strong side, is not something we want to dampen down. The Milillo method, the Milillo approach, and the approach I use is about strengthening up whatever the weak side is. Because imagine if you've got genius level skills on one side or the other, you're a huge empath, you're real super sensitive, you're maybe even too self-aware, you tend to shy away from contact because you find everything so overwhelming. Or maybe you're severe left and your family and friends tell you you're too mean, you're too strict, you're too whatever. At the same time, you're very goal focused and you got to get the project done. And your teachers may love you in high school and stuff because you're so hyper focused and the work's always done and your writing is small and neat and very precise and that kind of thing. Well, those are actually superpowers. They aren't weaknesses. So what we do is pretend you're way too emotional, way too right brain. And I say emotional in the sense that hypersensitive, hyper empathetic. What else can we say? And you over worry about everything. You're too receptive. I have a patient like that. She told me when she tends to be very empathetic. That's why she does what she does. And she said she literally goes home at night and decompresses because she feels so much for her patients. Well, now what you do is, if that's your train of thought, then what you want to do is ramp up the logical side, right? And that's what during the day, she can be logical and less reactive. But by the time she gets home, she's got to totally unwind and relax. But that's what you would do. If you've got a superpower on the right and sometimes it's overwhelming, like we've talked about before, push that to the left with something, stimulate the left side, do the sense, do the vision, do the colored glasses, read out loud, move things to logic. If you're super logical and you're not emotional enough and you're not empathetic enough, stimulate the right side. And again, blue, green, indigo, smells on that side, all of the things that we talked about. Now, today we're going to talk about something real simple to understand, and this is hearing. Like vision, the right field of vision crosses to the left, and the left field of vision crosses to the right. That way, both hemispheres gather all of the same information. Hearing. Left hearing crosses, the right hearing crosses to the left, and the left hearing crosses to the right. So, of course, it's going to be picked up a little bit ipsilateral, same side, and then it's going to jump contralateral or opposite side. And that's where it's going to be processed for the most part. But then you have overrides with, like I'm talking right now, and you could turn your left ear towards it because you want to stimulate right brain function and comprehensive more, however you want to do it. But the idea is then verbal word and definitions for the words I'm using will still be on the left side. So there's some sound that there's the overrides of what hemisphere is better at certain skills than others. Like I said, word definition, word finding, definitely a left brain skill. Fine detailed motor movement, a left brain skill. Speaking, obviously a fine detailed motor movement, left brain skill. Comprehension, understanding, the big picture, right brain verbal skill, right? So now with hearing, some of the easiest things to do is definitely going to stimulate the contralateral or opposite sides temporal lobes. Okay, hugely important. That it's a great trigger. Sounds, and particularly music, in our case as Muslims, inshallah, we want to use maybe our favorite Quranic reciters and listen to those. I know I have the Quran on my cell phone, and I have one reciter that I listen to all the time. I listen to all of them to see which one I like the most. And this is the one I listen to all the time. Tonight, I'll listen to it before I go to bed because I'll listen to Surat al-Kahf in Arabic. I find that hugely relaxing. So that's something you can do in place of, rather than music. For the non-Muslims, I would recommend all of your favorite music. I told you a great story, not that I recommend music, but music therapy works. I'll say it that way. Music therapy works. There's a great story. I think I learned it from Dr. Malillo. He was talking about a grandmother, big stroke, non-responsive, no verbal, didn't respond to verbal, was just fully alert. It looked like she was fully alert. Everything functioned correctly, totally unresponsive. They had her sitting there in a assisted living facility, 24-hour monitoring and all that stuff. They dress her, they bathe her, everything was good, no fight back, but no response either. Had to help feed her, all that stuff. Her granddaughter came in one day and said, well, let's at least play her favorite old music, her favorite music. No sooner did they turn the radio on or the music on than she started singing along with the songs. True story. Started singing along with the songs. Moved her right through playing all these songs, got her stimulated. And that's what I'm saying. Not only when we think about memory, a lot of us get caught up in the hippocampus. Organ. You can Google it if you want to. I'll try not to be too distracted tonight. The idea is, I'd rather have you think of the hippocampus as a memory janitor. And it comes in, places the memory somewhere, and then goes back and finds it, the memory, because it knows where it placed it, right? So, and we've talked about this before. So it's literally, yes, if you lose your hippocampus, dementia, Alzheimer's, it can really wreck everything, right? There are miracles, Allah knows best, but this story is meant to point out that there are different ways to stimulate and find memories. And then again, for some reason, her favorite songs, singing along, a pattern of movement, maybe it jumped into the basal ganglia because it was a habit, right? Singing songs, you recognize songs from 30 years ago, whatever the case is. And then they were able, because speaking is a fine motor movement. Now think about the areas we just talked about, what they're stimulating. Both lobes, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex up there, your whole frontal lobe of comprehension, your fine motor skills, because she's singing with it. So you've got the motor control. I mean, think about how much stimulation that sound gave her. And another thing to remember about memories is memories aren't stored together in terms of just time frames. Like all of my memories from yesterday are stored together. All of my memories this morning are stored together. All of my memories with this talk aren't stored together between the 6:30 and 7:30 or whenever we finish today, right? They're not stored like that. They may literally have different affiliations. You could pretend one of the things, I'm here in Florida now, or when I was in upstate New York growing up, I may have a memory of tobogganing. I do have a memory of talking. My brothers and I talked my mother into tobogganing down the hill with us. Don't go over the, what's the worst thing you can tell a child is don't do, right? So she gets on the toboggan. There's a couple in front and a couple behind because there's four boys. And so we're on this toboggan. Last thing she says is, don't go over the ramp we built in the backyard. Needless to say, I hope she forgives us for this. We went over the ramp. She got mad at us because, she got jarred more than teenage kids would get jarred. And, but then think about that memory with my mother and then pretend maybe the first time after she and my father moved to Florida, maybe she and I went to the beach together. And now I'm at the beach with her saying, oh, remember the first time we went together? And then I jump right over to, holy cow, remember that time in the tobogganing? And of course she remembers. And the memories didn't store in a time frame. They stored what we call temporal, Temporal. Is calling that right? Temporal meaning time frame. They didn't store temporally. They stored based on who it was. Say my mother, important things that we did together, or the emotions, the love for each other, the joy of being in each other's company. Okay, so that's why different sounds, different. In this case, I mentioned songs or even Quran. Imagine you start reciting Quran. That stimulates a memory. That's why we should all learn Arabic. Very rhythmic in Arabic, isn't it? Beautiful, beautiful sounds. Oh my gosh. And then you've got the sounds. There's a sound, a Muadhin, if I'm saying that correctly, from Aleppo from years ago. That's always been my favorite adhan to listen to. So there are these things that can stimulate memories or stimulate other pathways to access brain stimulation and memory stimulation. So sound, whether it's in our case Quran, whether it's music for people, whether it's somebody's voice or certain sounds by themselves, they all help stimulate memory. There's emotions tied to that. And then, like I said, very important to the temporal lobes for sound. And as we mentioned, this was a big surprise when I learned it, sound being used for the what is it part of vision. You can even tie sound into vision because the parietal lobes are very important. Proprioception, we'll talk about that. The parietal lobes are the where is it visual strain, and the temporal lobes are very important to the what is it visual strain. So the parietal lobes pick up speed and location, fast movements. It prefers fast movements because the reaction is going to be quick and it's spatial. Parietal lobes and spatial, SPATIAL, not C, but it's spatial awareness. And then you've got the temporal lobes, which are very, what is it aware? What color is it? It likes colors. It likes details. It really, once you find out where it is, you've got to figure out what it is, right? And colors and seeing what kind of texture it is, how furry it is, how sharp the teeth look, the details, right? So sound is very important. Temporal lobes, and believe it or not, sound is important to vision. Next, I'd like to talk about touch. Huge, huge, hugely important. Touch is the opposite parietal lobes, the contralateral parietal lobes. So that's why I said if one of the sisters we talked about several weeks ago, or a couple of the sisters were on that conversation, talking about how they feel like they're hyper right and hypersensitive, hyper right and very right brain dominant. And one of the best ways, as we talked about, to stimulate left brain is touch. Touch is hugely important. You've got light touch, you've got firm touch, you've got the vibration that'll come up under proprioception also, but you've got the touch stimulus. So if you want to stimulate your left brain, you're going to put the smell over here. You're going to sit on the right-hand side of someone because you're going to stimulate their left. You're going to talk to them from the left, from the right. So we've got sound. You're going to touch them your husband, your spouse, your kids, while you're talking, put your hand on that shoulder, put the hand on the arm. If you're trying to be comforting, rub that shoulder, rub that arm. You don't necessarily, hugs are cool. Don't get me wrong. You can bring it across, but that's going to be hyper right again. What you're going to do, but you're leaning in. So there's some right stimulating left. But what you can do is stimulate that left hemisphere, put the smell over here, sit over here so they're looking at you out of the corner of the eyes, rub this shoulder, comfort from this side, speak into this ear. All of that is going to stimulate the left side. And for you hyper right people, what you want to do is get that right-sided stimulation to stimulate the left side of your brain. And if you use, I'm not a big fan of ear because of the electrical current and stuff. I do use them occasionally, but not most of the time. I have a plug into my phone and I just put them in. Put the sound in just one ear. Literally, put it in just one ear, whatever you're trying to stimulate that day. If you're listening to a lecture and trying to get the big picture, put it on this side. You'll get the verbal side, right? But then you'll get the big picture comprehension. What's he trying to say side? Put it on this side, get the more details. What? The whys, the dates, the memorization. Left ear, right brain, why? Who? What were the motivations? What else was involved? What was the backstory? Makes sense? That's the way to truly understand some history. But again, back to touch. Touch, all right-sided. We do a lot of therapies, particularly in the office. A lot of the offices and the doctors I talk with and follow, you'll see, we'll literally put the stim on, and I do a lot for my stroke patients. I'm in an area, I have a lot of geriatric stuff. I stim the opposite side of the body to the point where we'll even put a light to tolerance TENS unit on them, and we'll stimulate. I prefer most of us prefer putting it over the back, and we'll put a TENS unit and put a light electrical current while they're on a vibe plate. And if we really want to get serious about it, we pretend I'm stimulating the right side. I'll put the TENS unit on the left back, lower and upper back, cover all the muscles of the back, big muscles, right? Then you can have them stand on a vibe plate with the left foot and something stable with the right foot. And imagine how much stimulation is going on. At the same time, I use red light therapy, red and infrared. I use a class 3 laser. So at the same time, I'm doing touch with the TENS unit and the electrical current. That's a little ramped up for touch. We're also doing smells. We're using blue lights. We're getting them stimulated from the left corner of the vision to cross over to the right. So we're tying all of that together, with the big thing being touch and vibration there. Huge, huge, huge. And sisters and brothers, if you want to, you can literally get a super inexpensive, rechargeable, wherever you buy it, TENS unit. Stick it on and stimulate the side that you want to cross over and stimulate, and then tie in the sense, the sounds, everything we talked about already. What's really cool is touch for the parietal lobe. It's not just where it is, but you're also going to be talking about things like graphesthesia. What else? Where's my list? Stereoagnosis. These are things where, if you're working on yourself or you're working with someone that does have a functional disconnect syndrome or a little bit of an imbalance from one side to the other, you can literally, if I want to pretend I'm going to do right just because I'm right-handed, you can write in their hand. That's the graphesthesia part. You can trace out one number at a time, trace out a number, make it real simple as you're doing it, right? And the way they are familiar with it, okay? So you're going to trace 1 through 9 in the palm of their hand and have them identify it. You can also do the alphabet. Trace out the alphabet in the hand, on the leg, bigger muscles. But the hand is more detailed. So I like, believe it or not, in this case, I'm using smaller, more detailed sensitivities. So I'll trace a number or a letter in the hand. As they get better, there's less sensitivity as I work up. Then I'll also use the leg, because now we're really, if they start getting all the letters right and all the numbers right, we move away and we move to larger muscles, because the muscle's bigger, but at the same time, your leg isn't as detail sensitive as your hand is. So when we're first starting, I like to use the increased sensitivity. And whatever side you're going to do, remember the right hand crosses over. And then you've got stereoagnosis. What you're going to do is have them close their eyes or blindfold them, younger children, cover their eyes, help them out, or have them reach into a bag and identify something they're familiar with. You can try it on yourself, separate out your house key from your car key. Well, car keys are pretty obvious now, but you could separate your keys. Don't do it if you're afraid of losing them. But the idea is you kind of throw something in a bag that you can close and reach around. And with kids, I like to try to identify. We'll talk about textures first, then we'll talk about shapes, real simple circles, real simple triangles, and you train it in first where they can see it, because I want them to imagine what they're feeling. And this is called stereoagnosis. Stereoagnosis, 1-0. And literally have them reach into a bag, soft texture bag, because that's very comforting for kids that are a little hyper. And is that a square? Is that a circle? Or is that a ball even? Squeeze it. Is that a ball? Is that hard? Is that soft? Is that fluffy? Is that your favorite toy animal? Whatever you want to throw in there, throw in the bag and have them identify. And again, right hand for left brain. The right brain is more sensitive to this. So I like to use the left hand. I like to start with the left hand because the right brain is more sensitive to it. And then you can see, but if they're super right brain, I go right after the right hand. That's not an issue. I'll double down on their weakest side. If I am doing both sides, I'll do the weaker side, I'll do the stronger side, then I'll jump right back and do the weaker side again to train it in. I do very little for the strong side until we start tying it in with cross-body activities to get them to use both sides together. Believe it or not, just a simple punching bag as a cross-body activity is really cool. Toe touches, shoulder touches, I'm telling you, real simple stuff. But of course, I use red and infrared laser a lot, so that helps speed up the brain's reception because it gives it more energy, and we can talk about that forever too. But touch is hugely important. I really like, along with the graphesthesia, the writing in the hands and the reaching and identifying things that you can't see, there's something really cool called haptic, HAPTIC, sense. This is feeling and identifying the pressure. It would be feeling and identifying where the pressure is. What else? You also have, temperature, texture. We talked about that. This is really important under the word haptic, though, if I spelled it right. And then you have vibration on the skin. Really, really stimulating part of touch. Vibration is really, really cool. We use it a lot with stroke patients, although sometimes that side might be hypersensitive and a vibration might be too strong and stimulate the pain pathways also. So we wouldn't use it there. I don't use, and most of us don't use, negative stimulation at all. We don't want to fire up. If that's the only pathway that works, we're going to figure something else out. And you see how the hearing, the vision, the taste, the touch, the smell, all these things can overlap and stimulate similar areas. And particularly when we talk about an organ called, and I really recommend look this up because we could do a whole lecture on the hypothalamus by itself and the regulation of homeostasis. We've used this word before. Keeping a constant temperature, a constant controlling your appetite, controlling body temperature, sweat, thirst, hunger, emotional states, your autonomic system, your heart, your lungs, your respiration rate, your heartbeat, blood pressures. Oh my gosh. The hypothalamus is the great regulator. So you can come in from different ways, stimulate that, and that will bleed up into cortical areas that it used to stimulate. And we can strengthen it that way too, through corresponding organs, brain organs in this case. And I really like vibration because think about what's going to happen here. I think I've talked about it before. The vagus nerve. Ooh, vagus nerve is so sensitive to vibration and touch. I like to vibrate the throat because you have cranial nerves there. And we'll talk about a couple of those in a minute with taste. But I really like vibrating the throat, vagal nerve stimulation. You've got right around the ears, the auricular branch, as we talked about before, of the vagus nerve. The auricular branch is right here at the edge of the ear canal. You don't have to go all the way into the ear canal. Right on the edge is the only surface area that the vagus nerve actually comes to. So that's really important. Now, vibration and touch. Vibrate your abdominal cavity. Let me lower this for a sec. Vibrate your whole abdominal cavity. You've got your intestines here. You've got some hugely important organs. You've got your stomach. You've got your liver, your kidneys, your spleen, your gallbladder, and this gigantic intestine. Intestines, small and large. And then the large on the way out, when I'm massaging constipated patients, I don't do a lot of it because it can be time consuming, but we might light this area up, and then I'll teach them to briefly massage, apply the pressure side to side, up and down, whatever they want to do. Then what you do is trace out the colon just to stimulate, because this is how you're gonna end your constipation. Okay, you're gonna come up, across, and down, and slightly back towards center to encourage peristalsis or intestinal movement. Okay, and at the same time, we would use cold laser, the red and infrared, and somewhere between 600 in the red side, the color that we can see, and infrared is usually over 800. Most of the devices you can buy off the shelf places are 880, I believe. There's even some good research. One of the guys I follow, he just released a really cool picture and video. I re-shared it on my Instagram. You can certainly look at that if you want to. It's Dr. Daniel McBride on Instagram. And Ryan Cedermark, Dr. Ryan Cedermark, RyanCedermark. You can go, I got to tell you, I would recommend following him right away. I reshare a lot of his stuff. He's really into finding that research. Great personality. He's up there in Atlanta. Phenomenal stuff. He talks a lot about the vagus nerve and the red and infrared he just talked about this week. But it's really important. I'll double down. We'll vibrate the stomach, the whole abdominal cavity, and we'll red light it at the same time. At home, I recommend patients massage it, hand massage, and also massage guns. Hugely simple. You can get really, really inexpensive massage guns and just hold it. If I'm going to, after a workout, if I'm working on my legs, I'll literally same side, hand and leg, and work my whole leg. And as much as I can reach with that hand, then I'll switch hands and do the other side. And typically I'll do one leg, then switch and do the other leg. Then I'll go to the upper body, and then I'll go to the upper body. And then, of course, to get the opposites like that. And I do it on purpose because I'm literally trying to stimulate the brain like that. And it's not as complicated as it sounds. It's just making it a habit. It really is. And the vagus nerve is huge. You can massage gun that, but you can also have, you can use the vibration. I also use in the office, we use something called RezziMax, RezziMax. Look at their videos on YouTube. Again, I have no association other than I love the product. You can look at their videos on YouTube, and you can also look at the product. But in the office, especially with some of the kids, when I first start working with someone, I'm not sure how they're going to respond. So I use my less expensive, if I'm going to let an autistic child hold it, or I'm going to let someone with a little emotional dysregulation, my PTSD or something. I usually start with my less expensive pieces first, I'll be honest with you. And then I move into, the reason I like the RezziMax is Sharik, don't remember his last name. He put it together with specific frequencies in mind. That's why I also use the laser I use. Specific frequencies. There are over 250 settings in my handheld laser, everything from something as superficial as acute lower back pain, chronic lower back pain, all the way through, or what I could target an organ, all the way up to brain settings, whether it's a whole lobe or it's the brain waves, alpha, beta, theta, delta, gamma. You can look those up if you want to. Really cool stuff. And it covers everything, covers the gamut of things. And I use a lot of class 3 cold laser. I like cold because I can literally target a spot and leave it there and then move it. The class 4s, I'm always worried about those because they create heat. And I don't use class 4 except for muscular stuff. Well, we don't even have class 4 in this office. After touch, let's see, and the vagus nerve, yes. After touch, we've got taste. Taste is hugely important. It stimulates, and all of these are also stimulating to the brainstem. Taste in particular, because that's going to stimulate cranial nerves 7, 9, and 10. One of the ones I always remember from school is bitter back 9. The bitter taste is on the back of your tongue, and that's cranial nerve 9. So you've got 7, 10, what did I say? I'm sorry, 7, 9, and 10. And cranial nerve 10 is vagus, stimulating digestion. So you've got 3 different cranial nerves in the pons and the medulla, 2 hugely important areas, the whole brainstem, but there's a lot going on in there. And I think I've mentioned primitive reflexes before. That's pretty much where your primitive reflexes are also. So you can use taste to stimulate your primitive, to help improve your primitive reflexes. I might give the child something that they like, a flavor, while I'm working on the brainstem with the red light, red infrared, I say red light, with the laser light. And then we throw in other things too, but taste is really cool. Like I said, 7, 9, and 10 in the brainstem. Let me run through this list. There's the nucleus tractus solitarius, which is also in the medulla. You've got the thalamus. We talked about that. You've got the insular cortex. Then you move out into the cortical areas even more with the gustatory cortex. I think that's Brodmann area 52. And then throughout the whole frontal lobe, along with that. Up in here, I think, or frontal operculum. I'd have to look to be detailed about it, but I believe it's area 52, the gustatory cortex up in here. And then a lot of frontal cortex to figure things out. Really cool with a nucleus tractus solitarius based on where it's located. I wrote this down to make sure you get a grasp of what's taking place. And remember, we talked about hypothalamus earlier, homeostasis involved in everything, maintaining level in your body, whether it's temperature, taste, touch, circadian rhythm, sleeping, emotions, autonomic function. Nucleus tractus solitarius functions, sensory integration, integrating all of your senses. Taste helps with that. Autonomic functions, like we talked about, heart rate, breathing, dilation, constriction of the eyes. All of these functions, and we also have what I just mentioned, your circadian rhythm. It's all about autonomic functions. Heart rate, respiration. Now we jump into homeostasis with your circadian rhythms. Then it's also hugely important to emotions. That's part of your homeostasis, staying in the middle, staying in control. Sometimes you have to imagine fight or flight, life or death. You better ramp it up 100%, right? And get out of there, or fight for survival if you got to protect yourself in a dangerous situation. Quick responses, driving, avoiding accidents and things. Hugely important also is the nucleus tractus, NTS, nucleus tractus solitarius. Google it up. It's really important to a couple of hormones also. Oxytocin, most of us know what that is, and vasopressin for fluid levels. And it has something to do with blood pressure and kidney function and a bunch of things. Really cool. So here you've got taste involving the nucleus tractus solitarius, taste, and improving oxytocin and vasopressin. The idea is that, remember, taste, breastfeeding, oxytocin, hugging your mother. Real cool research, believe it or not. And I'm thinking it probably helped with the father also. I'm hoping when my kids hug me, all four of them, Malik, Khadijah, Tahara, Abdurrahman, that they get a flood of oxytocin. I know I get the love hormone going. It's so much comfort and joy, right? But imagine taste can stimulate that also. And be very aware of that if we shift to bad stuff. You've got addictive behaviors, addictive eating, that kind of thing, food addictions, because of that comfort release based on taste. And comfort eating, hugely important for controlling autonomic responses, because the minute you start to eat, you stimulate vagus nerve. But as long as you realize that's what's taking place, then you can work on controlling. I'm a big fan of people that overeat, and I'm a big fan of when people overeat, that go with fruits, vegetables, and things that are good for you. Go ahead and eat as much as you want to. Like I've said before, if you can put down 2 apples in one sitting, or 3 or 4, or anything like that, it's hard to overeat fruits and vegetables. But they are good for you as compared to how easy is it to eat a $9 or $7 bag of chips or whatever they are now, and all these crazy tariffs we are now implementing. It's a whole lot easier to eat fruits and vegetables. It really, really is. They're more filling. They're better for you. Yes, you can think about the pesticides, but I got to tell you, the preservatives, the food colorings, the foods, the non-food items that are in these preserved foods have to be as bad as the preservatives. You can scrub them off. You can do whatever you want to. It's whatever you can do. All these videos that come out about cleaning your fruits and vegetables, do it. It's better for you. And if you're going to overeat fruits and vegetables. We're done. There's no other discussion. Okay. You get your sugars out of that. Yes. Insulin. I know. But guess what happens when you drink a dietary or an artificial sweetener? Oh, it's not sugar. The problem is insulin is released based on taste, not amount of sugar. So if it tastes sweet, your body reacts as sweet. Be clear on that. If your body waited until it measured the amount of sugar in your bloodstream, you'd already be hyperglycemic and you'd be in big trouble. Too late to take your shot, right? You'd be rescue call every time. So what happens is, based on taste, your body starts releasing that insulin to get your system prepared. So it pulls the blood sugar out to clear space, make room for more sugar, right? For the sugar you're taking in. Now imagine you pull that sugar out. What are you doing with it? The muscles are probably already full. The liver is probably already full because you're not exercising at that point, right? It's literally, boop, turn it into fat. So now your insulin raises. You're not using the sugar. You got to get it out of there. So you push your circulating glucose. You push your circulating glucose into fat storage. Now you've got an artificial sweetener. So where's your blood sugar levels? Insulin lowered them. Now you take artificial sweetener. Now the artificial sweetener gets there, and your brain measures it. Your body measures it, and it says, "Wow, we're hypoglycemic because we didn't replace it." So what do? You go back and get something else to eat or drink, and da 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 da. Talk about insulin dysregulation and decreasing the cellular sensitivity to insulin. You got to be very aware of that. Taste is huge. I talk about it in a good way, but it can also work against you. I'm not a big fan of artificial sweeteners. Now there's other things, and I won't go into all that. But again, talk to your physician, find a documented doctoral, and we all know one, a doctoral level nutritionist, and let them teach you how to do that stuff correctly. Okay. Very hugely important, because taste can work for you and against you. And finally, let's see, 721. Finally, I'd like to talk about proprioception. This includes coordinated movement, balance, and spatial awareness. Okay. From a big picture idea, you take the proprioception, and that's a very fine-tuned definition would be, where am I in space? Where am I in terms of where are my body parts. I'm going to close my eyes. Okay. My eyes are closed, nose, finger, this pointing finger to thumb, pinkies together, middle fingers together, ring finger, pointers again, and blah, 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 blah. Okay. So my proprioception in front of you guys was okay. Alhamdulillah. So the idea is proprioception, where you are in space. Now that you know where you are in space, then you can better coordinate your movements because you know where your limbs are. If I'm going to reach for the pen, I quick look. Yes, I put it there. I get it. I put it back. I move around. I reach for it. I get it. Put it back. Put it over here. I've got this proprioceptive memory almost. I'm going to reach out, grab it, and I can feel it. I'm not looking at it. So I can feel it. I know this is the pen, not a sheet of paper, as we talked about earlier with stereognosis, right? So I grab my pen. I should have tricked you and pulled up a sheet of paper. But the idea is that proprioception, because I know where I am, I can relate myself how much I should reach over to grab the pen, how much I should reach over to set it on the desktop in the space it came from. Hugely important. A lot of left brain people, that's a right brain skill. So proprioception is really important. And it's important in my treatment protocols with ADHD, autistic, and the different types of ADHD, whether it's a strong right or a strong left, particularly with strong left brains. Strong left brains are usually, since proprioception tends to be a right and particularly parietal lobe, but a right brain skill. Left brains can learn it. That's not an issue, but it's more of a struggle. And the farther out you are on that left brain level or that line, the worse most, there's always exceptions, the worse their proprioception will be, the worse their self-awareness will be. Remember the emotional stuff, super self-aware, super right brain. Not aware, strong left brain. That's why left brain dominance and the skewed, when they are way out there, like our reelected white guy and his friend, total left brain, corrupted left brain dominance. Not like most of us that lean left or right, but this is skewed out there. You saw the one guy, the friend, actually almost cry because his stocks were collapsing, and he doesn't understand how people can use the word mean 3 times in an interview. They're being mean to him. This is a guy that can only relate to himself. And he's not even good at relating to himself, because if you saw the kind of weird dance, I mean, talk about embarrassing a whole race of people, right? And all males in the world. I mean, he and the reelected white guy, no rhythm of muscular coordination at all. When you see that video, understand clear demonstrations of really corrupt. Some of us are just a little left-brained, but these guys are corrupted left brains way out there. No real good motor control, no good motricity. It's just embarrassing, and no awareness. And he only has empathy for himself. Clearly, in that interview, he didn't understand, and it's like, you're costing all these people their jobs, and you're mad because you lost a couple of $1 billion. Doesn't make sense to me. There's no other empathy. There's no other understanding, if that makes sense. So proprioception, hugely important, because that is you first in your self-awareness, right? Right brain skill, your self-awareness, and then your awareness of what's going on in your surroundings. With that in mind, then we can deal with coordinated movement. We can deal with balance, because you know where you are, and spatial relationships to everything. Some real easy things to do for proprioception and coordinated balance and spatial relationship. First, you start with, say, a dual leg stance, feet side by side. Do it. What you should be able to do is hit 30 seconds, and more is better, 30 seconds to 60 seconds with your eyes closed. Make sure it's in an open area, not next to tables and chairs and all that stuff, or put it next to a cushiony chair or next to the bed, okay? Make sure you're safe. If you need to, put something right in front of you or right next to you so you can grab it. You're going to do eyes open first. Practice that. Once you can get 30 seconds without wobbling, now you're going to, this is called dual stance. Now you're going to do dual stance with your eyes closed. Then you're going to do what we call tandem stance, heel to toe. All right. And again, 30 seconds eyes open, 30 seconds eyes closed. More is better. This is really hard. And then what you're going to do, this would be more right brain stimulation because it's pretending to be my left foot. And I'm putting more weight on the left cerebellum, more stress, more weight is on the back leg. And it's going to be left cerebellum stimulates right frontal lobe and right hemisphere. Okay. And then you switch feet. And most of your weight will be centered over your right foot. So that's going to be right cerebellum, left frontal lobe. Cerebellum fires into the frontal lobes, cerebellum and whole left brain, right? And you do that 30 to 60 seconds. Last but not least for stances, single leg. Now we're going to do whatever leg you want to. Most right-handed people stand better on their left leg. Hugely important. Make sure if you want to, you got something close by to grab. I'm not lying. When I'm testing my patients, I'm right next to them during these balance tests. And they're standing right there, one leg. You can lift the leg however you want to, straight out in front of you. I like pulling the leg up. You can bend the leg so that 50% of your lower leg is in front of your leg. If it's like this, and this is your foot back here, and your knee is right here. So the lower leg is right there. The foot is behind you, and the front of the leg is in front of you so that you got evenly distributed. I tend to just lift my legs straight up with a bent knee, whatever you want to do. Most right-handed people stand better on their left leg at first because that's our plant leg for kicking things. That's our jump leg. And then it's a surprise when the right leg is worse, and vice versa for the left-handed people. But then you do single leg, 30 seconds eyes open, 30 seconds eyes closed. Really great training for your cerebellum, for your frontal lobes, and for proprioception because you're feeling yourself, okay? And you'll be surprised when you do it, how hard things become when you take out your vision, which is the great override. Your vision talks to your brain. Your brain believes what your eyes see first. That's why these what do you say, not hypnotists, but these guys that do things with their hands, magicians and stuff. There's a lot of distracted movement when it's a personal up front and they untie people's tie while they're talking and they'll take stuff off of them. It's pretty funny. But the brain believes more of what it sees than of anything else, okay? Then we're going to talk about, and you can also use unstable surfaces, soft, thin to thicker mats, Bosu balls, younger people. Most of us older people don't use a Bosu ball, okay? The idea is squishy surfaces so that there's a little bit of joint play, makes it even harder. What's really cool, this is for coordinated movement and really stimulating all of the brain. I like task gait analysis, or what we call dual task analysis, dual task gait, however you want to say it. What you're going to do is you're going to walk forward smoothly, walk forward and backward, forward and backward, forward and backward, forward and backward. And you'll notice it's harder to walk backwards, even though it's a smooth, flat surface. Now what you do, that's your normal gait. Now I'm going to ask you to count backwards while you're walking. Count backwards from 100 by threes or 100 by sevens. What happens is when you get this dual task gait analysis, you'll come across, if there's any hesitation, it's usually indicative of a frontal lobe, if there's hesitation, but also hugely important because these two fire together, cerebellar activity, well, frontal and cerebellar working together. And then you've got both hemispheres working together. So what you do is you literally walk forward, counting backwards from 100 by threes or sevens, I like, because it's very challenging. And then once you get good at that, then walk backwards counting by 3 or 7 from 100. Hugely important for balance and coordination and proprioception. Remembering, because now what's really challenging about this is you're focusing on remembering what number you just said and what number you are walking or what number you're trying to get to, like 100, 97, 94, 91, 88. You see there already, and I'm not even walking. Imagine how hard it is when you're walking and trying to be smooth with your gait. Really cool, really, really, really cool challenge for everything up here, believe it or not. But in particular, your frontal lobe, your cerebellum, and your overall, your parietal lobes with overall awareness. You're stimulating, especially if you do it out loud, you're stimulating your temporal lobes, bringing in some vision, watching where you're going, and then get crazy with doing it with your eyes closed. Make sure somebody's there to warn you, right? Or it's a real clear backyard, right? In the grass. If you do stumble, you're in the grass. I love dual task gait analysis, whichever titles you want to use. Then really cool, like I said, proprioception is finger to nose, finger to finger. Really cool. Like I said, like I was going with a pen right here. The idea is have someone use sound and awareness at the same time. Pretend I want to stimulate my left brain. Someone stands to my right side. This is kind of cheating because I can feel my right hand. But imagine you're here. I'm going to use my right hand because it's left brain, right? I'm going to hear someone snap a finger over here, and you want to go and try to touch that sound. You are using sound, left brain. You are using the right side body, left brain. You are also using your proprioceptive senses, your parietal lobes, particularly over here. Then the smooth, coordinated movement, meaning you're not overreaching or underreaching. And then, believe it or not, you will actually try to visualize. And remember, we talked about that. Visualization works. Even when you have your eyes closed, your eyes move towards the target. And your brain is trying to visualize it, so it'll move them over. So we've got another motor center and we've got visual, although you can't see anything because your eyes are closed. But imagine snapping the fingers over there, left brain stimulation, fingers over here, right brain stimulation, and then stand on one leg. When you get super advanced, and whoever's testing them, stand close. What else did I want to mention with that? Okay, complicated movements. Really, really simple. You can do this with your arms and your legs. Really great. I do this a lot. It'll be real simple once you start practicing. Smooth, complicated movements are very cerebellar, but you're also using your motor centers, which are frontal lobe, okay? And you're using proprioception, especially if you do it with your eyes closed. I'll keep it tight here so that I'm in front of the cameras. Excuse me. But what you're going to do, however you want to position your hand, you're going to just do a smooth figure eight. All right, horizontal and vertical. Okay. And then I would recommend in a big way, if I can, literally out of the screen, out of the screen. The bigger the movement, the more stimulation you're doing. All right. And then do the left side, blah, 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 blah. Do your legs. You can't see, but you can do the same vertical and horizontal figure eight with your legs and feet. There's more muscle there, so there's even more stimulation into the brain. That's why balance, dual, tandem, single leg stance is really important. Once you get good at those, you can do like baby squats, just a couple of inches to really challenge your balance, but stimulate more muscle activity into the brain. Your legs are hugely important. That's why I said earlier, I like to tens the legs or I'll tens the back, depending on the patient. And especially with strokes. Ooh, I love doing things through the legs, the feet and the legs. So I use a lot of Vibe platform for my stroke patients. Lots of it. Even if it's at first sitting with just their feet on. I want that sensation. I want their brain to pick up the pathways. Stroke patients, brain trauma. If it doesn't irritate, we use it to stimulate. Clearly. That's it. Okay, now, if you have any questions at all about any of the senses, I've got both pages here and I can review whatever you want to. Next week, I would like to, coming out of Ramadan, let's talk about brain function and goal setting again. And what I want you to do is, if you want to ahead of time, do the goal setting for one goal. You don't have to share it with us, but do the goal setting for one goal. And then I will reteach it next week, and I'll probably drift over into a little bit of brain stuff, but I'll walk you through setting one goal. Okay. And you use that same format to set the same format to set other goals. Like I said, my goals revolve around faith, family, and then finances and fitness are really, really close. Fitness is easier for me to achieve because my stuff is right here. Finance is a little out of my control because, right, I'm working for someone else right now. But it's literally, you still set goals for those areas, right? Those are my 4, and then it trickles out a little bit after that. But those are my 4 F's is the easy way for me to think of it. So next week, I'd like to do some goal setting. And again, we talked about a lot of hemispheric stimulation, and that ties into goal setting. Any questions?